over the weekend, I looked into some of Korean history and some Korean culture. I took a close look at the Korean language, Hangul anyway. Very, very fascinating stuff. Very much requested reaction here to aespa episode 1 of the SM Culture universe. So let's check this out.
정체불명의 빛을 내는 싱크홀이 도심 곳곳에서 생겼다.
A
갑자기
new study of single phenomena has been published, and it's a hot topic.
디지털存在は愛と呼ばれ
SNS에는 디지털 존재 아이와 함께 찍은
아이가 기하급수적으로 증가하고 있다는 소식.
아이는 우리에게 다가와 현실이 되었죠. 자신의 디지털 정보들로 이루어진 아이는 자신과 흡사한 형태를 이루고 있습니다. 아이의 등장은 현실 세계와 디지털 세계의 경계를 초월한 이 새로운 존재의 출현을 우리는 어떻게 바라보고 마주할지.
이조교, 준비됐으면 강의 시작할까?
네, 교수님. 준비 다 됐습니다.
아이는 우리가 일상에서 올리는 모든 데이터에 의해 형성되는 인격을 지닌 또 다른 존재야. 즉, 자신이면서 자신이 아니기도 한 거지. 일부 사람들은 자신의 아이를 인지하지 못하는 경우도 있고, 또 다른 일부는 자신의 아이와 활발한 교류를 시도하기도 해. 이제껏 보지 못했던 이 새로운 존재를 우리는 어떤 시각으로 바라봐야 될까?
Mission clear.
예! 한 판 더? 응, 당연하지.
닝닝, 얼마 안 남았어. 슬슬 시작해볼까?
오케이.
이 작품의 경우 미디어의 특성과 예술적 감성이 서로 조화를 이루며 유기적으로 변화해온 과정을 이렇게 다각도로 표현함으로써
닝닝, 5초 전.
우리에게 전혀
My,
새로운
ready?
작품을 경험하게 하는데요. 작가는 미디어와 아트는
닝닝,
같다.
지금이야.
라고 표현하면서요.
지젤, 이게 무슨 말이지?
l'existence précède l'essence.
존재는 본질에 앞선다. 사르트르의 가르침 중 여러분이 지금 이 시대에도 적용할 수 있는 대목은 이 한마디. 인간에 관한 한 내가 관심 있는 것은 너희들의 미래다. 자, 그럼 다시 본론으로 들어가 보자. I는 우리 자신이 올린 데이터를 기반으로 이루어진다는 사실이야. 즉, 자기 자신과 흡사한 형태를 이루고 있다는 거지.
저희의 데이터로 만들어졌다고 해서 그게 곧 저희는 아니잖아요. SNS에는 자기가 잘 나온 사진을 올리기도 하고 보정을 하기도 하고 저희보다 예쁘고 우월할 수도 있는 거잖아요.
뭐 그런 시각도 있을 수 있어. 우리가 의식하든 의식하지 못하든 실제와는 다른 정보를 올릴 수도 있지만 결국엔 그것 자체도 나라는 사실을 받아들여야 돼. 우리가 아이를 만들었지만 너희의 욕망이 만든 것이기도 하니까.
Professor, what if I get hacked?
IE Winter is offline.
See me now, handsome but...
이쪽이요. 나 아까 수업하다가 도중에 끊겼는데 나 이거 과제 얘기도 해야 되는데 지금 학생들 기다리고 있지.
네? 교수님 이상 없이 수업 잘 마무리하시고 강의 종료하셨는데요?
누구야 너?
도시 전역에서 아이와의 싱크가 강제로 끊기는 이른바 싱크아웃 현상이 동시다발적으로 발생하고 있습니다.
이로 인해 패닉에 빠진 시민들이 사회관계망 서비스에 관련 게시물을 다소 올리는
Okay, so super interesting production here. Okay, so it's starting to make more sense now. A lot of the imagery from the videos that I've seen so far starting to gain a higher continuity as far as the context in between those. Yeah, this is let me see. I'm just okay. See, like the MCU, so there's gonna be post credits scene. Okay, let's see this. Let's check this out. This looks really, really good. Like, this looks fantastic. Kwangya, something Kwangya Beyond Flat. infinite extent with no rule and form. Can't simply self. Okay, so right, next level. Okay. Right, right. Okay. 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 Well, I think I get it now, at least as far as the continuity. It's all starting to come together. You know, it's really, like, this is really, really interesting. So, this is all about the future. And I was reading an article about it, about how all of this from they're, what do you say, like, they're kind of putting all their chips in on the future sort of technology and the way it's going to impact societies and culture and things like this. And it's interesting to me because I spent the whole weekend reading about the history of Korea and you know, the past, in other words, right? Contrast. But there's a lot from the history, especially the ancient history in Korea, it's pretty epic. I mean, it's like kingdoms and coups and different golden ages. You know, this is like one thing that I definitely understood is that, you know, the idea of incorporating contrast. This goes way back in the Korean history, especially through the art mediums. Because if you go way back in time, right, you would have like pottery, for example. And all of this is based off of need, you know, like in thousands of years ago, right? You needed to have pottery. You needed to have like vessels to hold things. And, you know, they went from getting the idea of the shape down, right, you know, to certain to specific dimensions, let's say, that they wanted. And then what you see later on is what a smooth vase or vessel or however you want to call it, pot, right, was eventually they incorporated patterns, little honeycomb patterns or you know, textured sort of patterns onto the surfaces of the pottery, right? And that's so, in other words, they took a concept that was established and worked and to, you know, to suit its purpose, and then they built on it in something that I would call an expressive way, because as long as the pot holds something, it's a pot, right? Like that's the whole, like you know, use is or what is it? Use is from what's there, but usefulness is from what's not there. So like a door is useful because you can go through it, right? As you have a wall and you have a door, because the door makes a space where there's nothing, you can actually use the door. The spokes at the center of a wheel, right? Like it just, the wheel's there, but where they meet, there's nothing there. But that's what allows you to use the wheel, right? Just, you know, it seems to me like you have the the pot that's already there, and it suits its purpose. So now they started it's like a romanticizing thing, like okay, so this vase or this pot or whatever, I wanted to have this pattern on the outside because I don't know, I really like the pattern, or I just, I was working on being able to do this pattern and now I can do it, and so it adds a more expressive personal level to the idea that was already there in the pot, right? Just this whole way of building on things by incorporating contrast and by incorporating changes, to give it a better or more rich experience, an experience that is composed of more than one or more than what was there before, I guess. Also the if you look at the history, there was, like I said, many eras of kingdoms, and like there was always these three kingdoms that were there, and it's a combination of different cultural ideas and certain behavioral practices and art styles. You have like the southern peninsula area where there were trade hubs. They had a lot of trade with China and with other countries, and so what you see is like art influence and cultural influence that comes from other places. And then in the northern peninsula you had a more isolationist, imperialist type of I guess where you would find the old ways sort of preserved, I guess, while as the others was like, okay, outside ideas. So this whole idea of contrast, this whole idea of putting things together that way, this goes way back into the history, and so it's really like it makes sense to me now how good all of this is, how effective all of this is. This isn't like something that they just thought up or whatever. This is ingrained very deeply into the people, the culture there. So there was a great visuals in this, and all of again, this plays off of what I had was talking about just now, just the historical, cultural, art aspects of it, right? So it has great visuals, good story. I'm starting to understand this whole concept. It's fictional, but it is informed by a lot of actual real world things, as far as the internet and technology and social media and just fairly like good like framing of it, at the same time that it wants to embrace the sort of futuristic elements, the changes, it's also saying like, keep in mind that this is, and they were saying like you might project things that aren't necessarily accurate because they're very selective, and so that's going to cause problems, I guess, and or at least anticipate that, which is at least they're going for, I'd say, a balanced, it's not like they're all in like, oh, this is just a great thing. It's also saying you have to be careful, you have to be aware if you're going to participate in this change. And again, I see, because reading about the history, they've had all these different times of change, of influence coming from outside, and then sort of the way of life changes, and then there's a sort of a unification. They had unification periods among the kingdoms, and that was a very a time of like remembering, okay, well, this is who we are, and this is what we do, and this is what we do really well, so let's like play into that strength. And so I just see the same intuition as far as like they're recognizing that, okay, this is going to be a change in the time, in the era, in the like this is going into a new age or whatever. So you pay attention to how this is being put together. Like I said, I always use the term thoughtful, like these, they're so rich in the concept, like the idea of putting all of these little myriad things together, but that's what it's about. It's about trying to bridge the micro with the macro, like, just see, like, from her doodling on her little pad, right? Giselle, she was in the class and she was typing stuff and doing things, and then like it's connected to this great big overarching sort of thing that's unfolding, right? This big event, this big like world changing historical sort of shift. It's very, very interesting. Like, now I do have, because I'm curious. I see many different ideas, and we'll go back and watch this, and I'm gonna listen a little more carefully, because with all these the music and the things that I've experienced so far, every time I go back, because I have all these songs already like in a playlist, and so I listen, and every single time I listen to a song again, I hear something that's new. I hear something that I didn't hear before. So I'm gonna go back and listen to this also a little bit more carefully. It was, mostly meant to convey a visual sort of story, right? But there were some cues in there, and some musical maybe themes that came into play, especially as they were going through each of the members, right? Very, again, they like to compare it to the MCU. So it is that, it's like they're showing the different Avengers characters sort of in their, what they're doing in their element, and then there was music in this case paired, well, in both cases, but the music, they corresponded to the themes with each member there. So more like a bit of a medley, maybe, depending on how it's composed. We might even say something like theme and variations. But really was mainly a visual sort of story here, which is cool. One thing that I am curious about. Okay, so I see I've had people say that the pronunciation is aespa, of the group. aespa, aespa. Like, what I'm curious about. Okay, so they have the A and the E together, right? And in English, when you take two vowel sounds and you mush them together, right? It's called a diphthong, right? In particular, like with the word I, like if I'm saying I do this or I do that. In the classical stylings, they will teach you you don't sing I because it's too throaty. It's a vowel sound that closes up, and so you end up going I, like it. You don't. It doesn't give the right sound, the right for when what you're trying to do anyway. So what they say is to say ah instead, like you make the ah sound, like when you need to sing I something ah instead, because that opens it up. It allows you to sustain and project your voice and things like that. Now, in pop music, you hear a lot of times when people are singing I, you'll hear this diphthong, I, right? I, you get both sounds. First you'll get the ah, and then you get the long E sound, right? Following E. Now, and so when you hear somebody go I, like that's what they're doing. They're going back and forth between the ah and the e sound. And it's just I'm curious about it, because if they use these two syllables, and when they talk about that avatar, right, it sound to me, I'm hearing them say I, which is a play on I, like the self, like me, like I, not like I, but I. You know, like that is I, right? Like that's so it's a play on words there on that level. But then also, because I've been paying attention to this. Let me see if I can do this right. Let me see. Okay, like that, and then like that, right? That there, and then like that. So there's like the vowels in the Korean alphabet, right? And I guess this is because this would be first, right? Ah, e, right? So this is for the ah sound, and this is for the e sound. And this together, if you do this I, that's child in Korean. So and so like it's all patterns to me. I see patterns, right? I see like there's a pattern of a diphthong, there's a pattern of the I diphthong, there's a pattern of like I as in the sort of pronoun, the first person singular pronoun I. Then there's the Korean alphabet symbols, the I and the E, the I, the child. Like all of these things are just patterns, and there's a point where they all line up, at least in my brain. Like that's the way my brain puts things in order sometimes, most of the time. But then if you read the explanation, the sort of official explanation, it's this avatar and experience, right? A from avatar and E from experience, and you put those two together, and that gives you the IE. And then the aspect was the other word, right? So avatar, experience, and aspect combined together was aespa, right? So that's another sort of layer for this patterning. I mean, to they have distilled some sort of a subjective meaning by organizing these things in a very specific way. So it's super interesting stuff, like if to get into it, it's starting to make a lot more sense anyways, as far as the continuity of the other videos and the songs and the kind of story behind them. So this is really cool. I will check out episode 2 also, the next level, to see what that's about, and to see if there's any more things that sort of stand out, whatever. But this was very cool. I just I get super interested into these things when, you know what I mean. And so just prompted by the experience of sort of discovering the K-pop sound, I wanted to know more about the culture and the background, and where this stuff comes from, and what kind of thinking informs these different creative ideas and production ideas, the approaches to things, and you can get a lot of that. I mean, you know, like I get a fair deal of understanding about the culture from the contemporary K-pop music, and so I have went back and taken some time to look at the history, and gain an understanding of how that informs some of their art and culture historically, okay, leading up to. And so all around I get a better understanding for the whole concept and for all of this work, which I'm very much enjoying it, and it's just super it's fascinating stuff, man. K-pop, I mean, you know, even SM, right? So you know how they say we have like the big three. There's the big three companies or groups or entities or however you want to call it that produce and distribute this K-pop content, right? You have the JYP, right? And you have SM, and then you have YG, right? I mean, it's another sort of like they're the three kingdoms of the K-pop you know, era, or you know, period, or however, right? Like it's three kingdoms, much like there were three kingdoms at different times in the history. I just see patterns, and I just get fascinated in it, and I appreciate it all very much. It's very, very cool stuff. Very cool stuff. So I will check out episode 2 of the SM Culture Universe also.